Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for joining. And if you're not new, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining as well. So in today's video, I'm going to go into something very important. I know that a couple of people have just graduated and they're probably wondering, what do I do after graduation? What is it like? What do I need to do? You might have heard of the PGWP, which is the postgraduate work permit, but you might not know how to apply or the documents you might need to apply, or even if you're eligible, you might not know those things, right? So in this video, I'm going to talk about the documents you need to apply for PGWP and also those that are eligible to apply for PGWP. So if you're someone that wants to see something like this, just keep on watching. And even though you haven't just graduated, just watch this video because it's going to help you. If you're still in the program or if you're about to start the program, this video will help you to know what to do once you've done with your program. First of all, I'll talk about those that are eligible to apply for PGWP. Now, what makes a person eligible for PGWP? Number one, you must have graduated from a designated learning institution. That's a university that is recognized by the government of Canada. Some people have made a mistake of going to universities or colleges that are not under the DLI. That means that they're not recognized under the government of Canada, and that's a problem. So if you are one of those people, you might not be eligible for PGWP. Just take note of that. And if you are someone that is about to start a program or about to, going to apply or whatever, just please check. Make sure that the university you're applying to, it is a designated learning institution. That means that this university, it is part of the government of Canada's, they have a list for all the universities that they recognize as a university or college that they would approve. Now, one thing to note is that not all DLIs are PGWP eligible. First of all, you must make sure you are going to a DLI and make sure that DLI is PGWP eligible. Take note of that. Because now some private colleges are not recognized as PGWP eligible. They might be DLI, but they might not be PGWP eligible. Please take note of that. Once you're applying for the school, make sure you check under the section for international students to see, is this university or college or whatever university you're going to, whatever institution you're applying to, is it, first of all, a DLI, a recognized DLI? Number two, is it PGWP eligible? If those two things are checked, then you can go ahead and apply. So only those that have graduated from a recognized DLI that is PGWP eligible can apply for PGWP. Number two, those that have completed an eligible program. Now, only those that have completed a program of at least 8 months that would lead to a degree, a diploma, or a certificate can apply for PGWP, if that makes sense. So your program must be at least 8 months before you can apply for PGWP. If you're doing a program that's less than 8 months, then you're not eligible. And the program must lead to a certificate or a degree. You must finish the program and you must actually be awarded a degree after that program. Some programs are just, I guess maybe cooking programs, or I don't know, maybe there's some kind of programs that are not, that they don't need a degree at the end of the program. Those programs might not be eligible for PGWP. But those that are above 8 months, and then at the end of the program, you're given or you're awarded a degree, these are the programs that would be eligible for PGWP. Take note of this. Also, you must be a full-time student. You must have been a full-time student in your program once you're finished, because that is those that are eligible for PGWP. People that have done part-time programs might not be eligible for PGWP. Now, this means that you are available on ground, in person, during the academic section of your program, right? However, there are some exemptions for those that probably took, medical leave, they actually applied for those things and had to leave the program. Maybe they had to do the program outside of the university for some reason, maybe medical reason and stuff like that. Those ones will probably, be exempted. But if you just leave your program and you're not on ground, I mean, you were not registered in your program, you were not there in person, you were not in classes, you were not there, those things, yeah, you must be a full-time student that is actually participating in those classes for you to be eligible. If they get or they understand or they find out that you were not actually on ground, that might be a problem and you might not be eligible for PGWP. Please take note of this. And of course, to be eligible, you must have held a valid study permit during the course of your program, right? If you're somebody that had a study permit that had expired and you didn't apply for an extension, and then you finished, maybe you kind of had a way to maneuver it, and you finished, and then you want to apply for PGWP with an expired study permit, that is not going to fly. You're not eligible. That's a cause for deportation, actually. So be careful of that. Before you apply for PGWP, make sure that it's still valid. Don't use an expired permit, study permit, to apply for PGWP, right? So only those that have a valid study permit, you know, during the course of their program or even after their program, because it still has to be valid after, right? You need it to be valid to apply for the PGWP. Now, in some cases, I've seen where someone actually finished their program in October and the study permit was going to expire in November. In that case, it's still valid, right? So you don't need to extend the study permit. If you feel like, just to be safe, you want to extend the study permit, that's fine, right? But because it's still valid, for example, you finished in October and then November is when it is expiring, you can apply for the PGWP with that study permit in October, or maybe before it expires in November. Do you get it? So even if it's one day that's going to expire, maybe like you're applying the day before it expires, you are still valid. So far, it hasn't expired. Once you apply for the PGWP, then you are safe. But you must not don't apply for PGWP with an expired study permit. It makes you ineligible, and they would cancel your application in that case. So before you apply, please, if for example you are graduating in, maybe let me say May, and your study permit is expiring in April, right? Extend your study permits. Don't say that I'm going to finish in May anyways. Let me just wait till May to apply for PGWP. That means that you're going to be using an expired study permit for that application. So take note of this. Make sure you extend your study permit. Make sure you plan it, months ahead. Extend it, because you don't want to have like expired status at any point, even if it's just 1 hour, one day. Don't have an expired status. Don't just be hanging around saying that we're going to apply for it in very soon. Make sure that it is not expired. This is very important, because again, things are very strict, right? They are very strict with applications these days now. So the things are all over the place, right? So people are not sure what's happening. So to be on the safe side, make sure that you are following all of the rules that they have put in place. Make sure that you have your status on check. Make sure it's not expired. Please, this is very important. Another thing is that you have to make sure that your program is delivered in Canada in person. At least 50% of your program must be in Canada. Some people do online programs and they are wondering if they can apply for PGWP. I don't think that is possible. You must be in Canada in person doing your program. At least 50% of your program must be in person, except in cases where there was COVID policies, there were restrictions. In those cases, some people had to do their program in their country before coming, of course, because there was lockdown and all of that, right? So that's an exemption, right? Some people might have done maybe half of their program in their country before coming. Of course, they would account for that one. So to be eligible for PGWP, you must have done your program in Canada in person, right? They must have seen that you were registered for the program, you were attending your classes. Your transcript, of course, will show that you were in class or that you had your grades and stuff like that. And of course, for some of those grades, for you to get those grades, you must have participated in classes. For online programs, in those cases, I don't think that they might be eligible for PGWP. For the most part, from my research, I saw that you must have completed at least over 50% of your program in Canada in person before you can apply for PGWP. Now, for my research, I saw that those that studied English or French as a second language are not eligible for PGWP. I'm not sure why, but that was what is being said. So as of last year, November 1st, I think 2024, there were some things that were put in place. In fact, there were many things that were put in place. But one thing that the Canadian government has said is that some programs are eligible for PGWP, and while some are not. I think I've made a video on this in the past. I'll link that video somewhere to kind of look at the programs that are eligible for PGWP and those that are not eligible for PGWP. Now, this would apply to only those that are going to apply for PGWP after November 1st, 2024. So there's a list that they've brought out. I'm going to put the link down below as well. You can click on the link and go and check if your program is eligible for PGWP. Now, they're saying that some programs are not eligible anymore. Now, the programs that are eligible for PGWP are programs in healthcare, program in STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the agriculture and agri-food programs, transportation, and trades. Like I said, these are the fields. So there are programs that are listed under these fields, right? So you have to go and click on the link I'm going to share down below to check if your program is one of them, right? Most importantly, if you're starting out a program right now, if you want to apply for a program, before you click on anything, before you begin to search for things, go to that link I'm going to put down below and check. Make sure that the program you're applying for, the course or the field you're applying to, it is part of the PGWP eligible field. And for those that are already completed your program, also check before you apply for PGWP, your program is eligible for PGWP. So I'm going to go into the documents you need to apply for PGWP. So what are the documents you need to submit? Number one, you need to show proof of completion of degree. Now, there can be different ways to do this. From my school, that's University of Manitoba, there is something called eligibility to graduate letter or form or whatever. Now, this is basically very simple. So for my school, there's a system they created where you basically apply. Once you're done with your master's or your PhD, there's a place you go to on your portal and everything where you apply for the eligibility to graduate form or letter, right? That is what you would need to use as a proof of completion of your program. It just basically says that you're done with your program, you've completed all of the requirements for your PhD program or for your master's program or whatever program you're doing, and then you're set to graduate. And then you put the dates that they think, the date that you graduate in there, right? For PGWP, you have, I think, around 120 to 180 days, I think, to apply for PGWP once you're done with your program, once you've graduated from your program. Now, please don't wait until you are done with the convocation. Don't wait until you are done. You know, the cap ceremony or the wearing of the gown and everything. That is convocation. For schools in Canada, right, there's something called graduation and convocation. They are two different things. You might graduate earlier. For example, you are done with your program, right? Maybe, for example, for me, I defended in December, right? Once I defended my PhD, I submitted my thesis, I uploaded it to the MSpace and all of that. At that point, I've fulfilled all of the requirements of my PhD program and I'm done with my program. However, I haven't graduated yet, right? So in that case, I'm eligible to graduate, right? It doesn't mean I've graduated. So for University of Manitoba, they have February graduation, I think May graduation, and I think October graduation as well. So for me to have finished my PhD in the December, I'm eligible to graduate in February, right? So in this letter that I talked about, this is where they put that I'm finishing in February, right? So I'm eligible to graduate in February. However, like I said, I haven't graduated. And also the convocation ceremony that we do at the U of M, I think it's around May, June. That's when they do the convocation ceremony, right? That's a different thing. Please don't wait until you graduate. I would not wait until February. Ideally, once you're doing your PGWP, it's good to submit your degree, like your certificate. You might not get that immediately. For most schools, they won't give you that immediately because, I mean, it takes some time, right? Once you're sure you've completed everything that you need to do as a student for that program, just email your department or your school for something called eligibility to graduate letter. That's the letter that you need to submit for to show that you have completed your program. So again, do not wait until I say, oh, the school has not given me a degree, so I cannot apply. Don't wait until you get your degree or certificate. That might take a while before you apply. So make sure that once you're done, you're done with everything, put in your application because it might take a while. The next document you need is your official transcript from the school. So you need the official transcript, not the unofficial one. Now, for anything immigration, always submit your official transcript if you can, right? So your school will definitely have a system that they use to get your transcript from the school, right? If you can email them, if you want to email, if you want a hard copy, they give you hard copy, you submit yourself, stuff like that, right? So basically, another document you need is your official transcript. And of course, you need your valid international passport. Now, this passport must be valid and it must have enough time on the passport, meaning that it must not be almost expired. If you have 1 year grace period on your passport, I would advise you to renew your passport before you apply for your PGWP. It's very important because I think typically they give you PGWP for 3 years, right? That means you can work for 3 years in Canada. And before then, of course, if you want to apply for PR, you can do PR and then you get a PR before the 3 years is over, right? This is very important because they typically do not extend PGWP. For study permits, you can extend it if it expires and you're not done with your program, you can extend it. However, for work permits, there's no way for you to extend your work permit. I don't think there's work permits, PGWP extension. I don't think so. So make sure it's very important you have at least 2 years. If possible, let it be more than 3 years because they will give you 3 years because they would not give you more than the amount of time you have on your passport. If your passport is going to expire in 2 years, just best believe the PGWP will be for 2 years. If it's going to expire for 1 year, of course, the PGWP will be for 1 year. They would not give you more than the time on your passport. Just make sure that you have enough time so they can give you at least 3 years. So you have time to apply for PR. Your PR might not take as long as 2 years or even 6 months or even 1 year. You get it, but you might not know, right? So just to be on the safe side, make sure that your passport is valid and also make sure that you have enough time on the air before it expires. before you put in for your application. It's very important. Now, the next document you need is an application form called IMM 5710E. That's the form that you need to submit that is for PGWP. If you are going to extend to work in Canada, that's the form that you would fill. So you don't need to go and start looking for the form. Once you're done filling out your application, like the site and everything, the part where you need to upload your documents, you will see a form called this IMM 5710E. Once you click on it, it takes you to the place where you can download that form and fill it out. So that's just it. So, but you need to submit that form. And you can't even submit the application without that form. So that form is also very important. And again, like I said, I'll make a separate video to show you how to actually fill out this form, the step-to-step tutorial on how to fill out the form and all of the sites and how to apply for PGWP. So watch out for that video. Another thing you need is your photograph, like your digital photo. That's basically your passport photograph. You need that. So that obviously is very simple. There's a dimension that you need to have. If you can't use your phone to do that, or it's just easier to go to the shoppers, take a picture from the shoppers. If you have a passport photograph already, maybe from your study permit extension, you can just use that one. Now, as of last year, November 1st, 2024, another change that was made was that the government of Canada said that if you're going to apply for PGWP, you need to submit a language proficiency test, right? That's basically CELPIP or IELTS, stuff like that, right? And for students that have graduated from university, they must have at least a CLB of 7. And for those that have graduated from a college, must have at least a CLB of 5, right? So for this one, you can do any exam you want. You can do IELTS, you can do CELPIP, right? And there are many videos you can watch online on, CELPIP, IELTS, and stuff like that. For me, I wrote CELPIP. CELPIP is Canadian language based, while IELTS is international based. Both of them are fine for you to do. Some people prefer a CELPIP, some people prefer IELTS. People are saying that CELPIP might be easier, IELTS might be easier, stuff like that. I'll just say it depends on what you prefer, basically, right? Even though it might be English and you might be proficient in English, you need to actually study for the exam. You need to actually kind of look at the questions and know what they are like, right? It's quite tricky. I won't say tough. It's not like so hard, no, but it's quite tricky. Like you have to kind of prepare for it. If you don't prepare for it, you probably will not pass the exam. That's the truth, right? Because you have to kind of know how it is before you go there. For CELPIP, I mean, I did CELPIP, so I know about CELPIP. For IELTS, I don't know about that, but I think it probably be similar. I think for one thing that's different for both of them is that CELPIP is mostly computer based. Like for the speaking session, it's computer based. You're speaking to a computer. You have a headphone and you speak to a computer. However, for the IELTS, you probably need to speak to a human person, I think. So people always say that they prefer the IELTS because the person you're speaking to can see your emotions and hear you. However, for the CELPIP, you're speaking to a system, there's no, like, they don't know your emotions. People that are scoring you for CELPIP are humans. They listen to the test takers and they score them based on how you're speaking, but they can't see your face. It's not video recorded, it's just basically voice recorded. They can only hear your voice and, basically judge your English language skills from that, your speaking skills from that, right? So I'll briefly talk about the CELPIP test because I wrote a CELPIP test. So for the CELPIP test, you have the listening section. I think you start with that. You have the reading, the writing, and then the last one is the speaking section. So for the listening tests, I think there are about 6 sections, right? You have to listen to something of 2 minutes, 1 minute, stuff like that. And as it goes, it becomes harder. I found that the listening section was a bit, tricky for me because the people were talking a bit fast for my comprehension. And then you have to kind of write down everything they're saying, not everything. And then you have to also listen while you're writing. And they have to remember what they said because then you might have missed something. And then it was a bit chaotic for me. But thankfully, I passed it. I got 10 for listening, and I got 10 for all of them, and the CLB of 10 for me, right? So, and then the reading section also is quite easy. The writing is also quite easy. But again, you must have prepared because it's time-based, right? So you must have prepared for it before you go. Time yourself for the speaking, for the listening, time yourself as well for the reading, for the writing as well, time yourself. So for the CLP, you just have to practice. My advice is that you practice, even for the IELTS as well, for any test that you're doing, you have to practice. Once you pay for it, they give you like 2 practice tests that you can do. And then you can also attend webinars and, watch YouTube videos. So it's kind of like, you kind of have to prepare for it. At least start maybe like a week before you go for the exam, basically, right? Another thing you need for your PGWP, as of November 1st, of last year is that you need to have done an English proficiency test. So this is why I said you should watch out for my next video, because once you're applying for your PGWP, the part where you need to upload your documents, there's no section where you see English tests, or it's not there per se, right? So basically, watch out for my next video. I'll show you how to apply and where to put the English test once you have done it and once you want to apply for the PGWP. Now, another document you need to submit, this is quite optional, is your letter of explanation. Now, for those that had to maybe go for medical leave or student leave, whatever it might be, maternity leave, for example, maybe they had to do that as well, then you might need to write a letter of explanation to explain those gaps in your, in your program. I think if you're going to go off your program for 6 months, it needs to be documented. It needs to be actually like accounted for, right? Vacation is different from leave. Leave is that you are, documenting it, is that you're accounting for it, right? So for that, in that case, you need to write a letter of explanation, right? Telling them why you had to do that, why there was a gap in your program, stuff like that. So this is kind of optional, right? Or even if you think that you need to explain something in your application, maybe something happened with a professor, maybe there was an action that was taken on you, maybe you had disciplinary problems with the school, or maybe those that might have failed a class. It's possible that someone might have failed a class. Maybe you explain why that happened and how you were able to come out of that, how you maybe did the class again. Whatever it is in your transcript or in your program that you might have been a problem or you think might be a problem, please, this is where you want to explain it in your LOE. Other optional documents would be that if you had to take like a maternity leave, medical leave, any authorized leave at all, you want to show proof of that as well. Even though you explained it in your LOE, also you want to show proof, maybe like a letter from your supervisor or a letter from the school showing that you took that leave. So having that as a backup document is also important. So for PGWP, right, you don't need to have a job before you apply for PGWP. That's something that people think. People think that they need to have gotten a job before they apply for PGWP. But if you have a job, right, there's a section in during the application where they ask you if you have a job and stuff like that. So during the time where you need to upload your documents, of course, you need to show proof of employment, right? You need to submit that. So if you're someone that already has a job, right, before your PGWP application, also another document that you need to submit is your letter of employment as well. That's only for those that already secured a job position. Of course, yes, having a job is good because it shows that you are good, like you have a job already. But don't wait until you have a job to apply for PGWP. Once you're done with your program, immediately you're done, apply for PGWP. So you can take like about 1 week or 2 weeks at most to gather your application and then submit it. Don't wait for like a long time before you submit your application for PGWP. Right? And the last thing you need is your application fee, of course. It's about 255 Canadian dollars if you already have a biometric in the system. Your biometric is valid for 10 years. So if you've been in Canada for less than 10 years, you will need to pay for that another one, right? So in that case, you just need to pay 255 Canadian dollars. That's the fee for PGWP. So like I said, I'll post a video very shortly showing you all of the things you need to do, how to apply for the PGWP, how to submit documents, where to submit documents, and everything that you need to know. So watch out for that video. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and share to as many that might need this video. I know there are many people that are finishing their program and they are probably lost and confused. I hope this video will help you. And if you know anyone in such category, please send this video to them to help them. All right. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.